So welcome to another episode of Sawdust. Today we're going to talk about metal fabrication. And we are installing a standing seam roof down at our waterfront project. But first let's check on Riley, who's working on some floating shelves for a project that we finished up a couple years ago here in Narragansett Pier. I'm Jeff Sweener of Sweener Builders. We have been building on the coast for over 30 years. Our team of craftsmen and design professionals are committed to delivering the best practices in custom home building. Our end product has to be beautiful, highly efficient, and use advanced building science to stand up to harsh coastal conditions. On Sawdust, we bring you behind the scenes to give you an inside look of how we do it.
We're here in Narragansett, Rhode Island, a house we built 2 years ago. It was designed with the architects at Arnold Design Group, and the interior is by Diggs Design. The inside of the house is very modern, lots of nice, clean, straight lines. The homeowner invited us back to do some more work. We're going to build some floating shelves on the inside. Let's go inside and have a look. So here we are in the living room with this beautiful fireplace. On either side we have these kind of unique spaces where the homeowner would like to add the floating shelves. He's got a few collectible items, some old antique radios and other maybe family heirlooms he'd like to display. And installing these floating shelves after the completion of a project can impose some structural challenges. However, Riley's got a great solution and he's at the shop building them now.
So here we have our rough sketch of our 6 floating shelves we're going to be making out of walnut veneer plywood. They're going to be 10 inches deep off the wall, 30 inches wide, and 2 1/4 thick. So we're going to be using 3/4 inch veneer plywood, and it's going to be a 5-sided box mitered and folded together to create the illusion that we have one solid piece of wood. So here we have our walnut veneer plywood. As you can see, it has a 32nd of an inch veneer on top of the regular plywood. And we're going to be mitering that back so the long point is on the face. Put 2 together, glue them and fold them, and it'll create the illusion that it's one piece of wood. So the first step is to rip down our material. I'm going to rip it a little oversized at 11 inches so that when I miter it, I can come down to our 10 inches. So that's my rip for the top and the bottom, and now I've got to make my skinny rip for the front and the sides. So before I set up to miter the long points onto my top and bottom, I'm going to cut the piece right in half to make it a little more manageable. Set this fence to my 2 1/4 finished width. The reason we picked 2 1/4 is we have a piece of 3/4 on the top and a 3/4 on the bottom. Add those together, that's 1.5 inches. Add another 3/4 for the cleat that's going to go on the wall. That gets you to 2 1/4, so this thing will just slip right onto a 3/4 cleat. So the next step is to put the miters on the ends of the top and the bottom. What I'm going to do is miter one side of both top and bottom, and then I'll set a stop to 30 inches, flip it around, and I'll cut them both the same on that other miter. So before I go and cut my top and bottom to length at 30 inches, I'm going to start my grain match for the front and the sides. I'm going to come in at least 10 inches, more than 10 inches, so that I can cut that off after. I have plenty of room on this board. I'm going to mark this for my miter on my front, And then when I go to miter my side, I'm gonna cut the opposite direction at the same mark. And when I fold this in there, the grain will continue right around the corner to the back. So now that we've got a miter on one side of our top, our bottom, and our front, I'm gonna go ahead and measure my 30 inches, set a stop at 30 inches, and cut all three of those so they're all exactly the same. All right, so I've got my top, my bottom, and my front all cut to length at 30 inches. Now I've gotta just cut my sides. As you can see right there, that grain matches up perfectly. And I've got them labeled 1 to 1 here and 2 to 2 here so I can keep the grain match. Now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna back cut this on a 45. And when I go to wrap it, that grain's gonna continue right around the corner. So I've got one final cut to make to cut my ends to 10 inches. And that's just a square cut because it's gonna go flat against the wall. So now I've got all my pieces cut to length and we're ready to start the V-fold process. What I'm gonna use is clear packing tape. I'm gonna tape these joints together. When I flip this over, I'll put glue in the joints and fold it up, and the tape is gonna hold it in place while the glue sets. All right, everything looks good. Let's get some glue in there. All right, we've hit all the joints with glue. We're ready to fold it up. All right, we've got the glue all set up and dry. Looks solid. Now we're ready to take the tape off. All right, now we'll give it a light sanding. Get rid of some of these glue marks here. I'm gonna spray the rag that I'm using to wipe the dust off with a little bit of alcohol. And that helps the dust stick to the rag. It comes out from the pores. So I'm just gonna be using a clear satin poly on these shelves, but you'll be amazed the color difference once the finish goes on. It really makes that grain pop. And I like to really saturate it on the first coat. All right, and that's it. Once that cures overnight, I'm gonna flip it over, I'll do that back side, and then I'll hit it with a wet sand 400 grit, and then I'll be able to do that all over again with the second coat, and it'll be ready for install. So the homeowner has laid out the 3 spots on the wall where he'd like those shelves to sit. So I'm gonna go ahead and tape all the way wall to wall, put my level lines up there, mark my studs, and I'll be able to screw my cleat to the wall and the shelves will slide right on. So now it's time to find the studs, and I'm gonna use this magnetic stud finder, which will actually pick up the drywall screws in the wall. So I'm just gonna run this along the wall, and there it is. See that? It sticks right to the screw in the stud. And now I can mark this, and then I can plumb that line up to hit both of my shelves, and I know there's a stud there. So here's our cleat we're gonna be fastening to the wall, and our shelf is gonna slip right over it like that, nice and snug. So I've gone ahead and marked where my studs are in the wall here, and I've got an 8-inch lag I'm using to fasten this cleat to the wall. I want the lag to grab 3 inches of the stud, so I notched in to leave 5 inches here, which gives us our 8 inches. I'm gonna hold this up. I get a center mark on my cleat. So there's my marks right here. And I'm gonna pre-drill that. And then screw this cleat to the wall. So now that we've got our cleat screwed to the wall, we're gonna go ahead and dry fit the shelf. Make sure we don't have to make any adjustments before we glue it. All right, so we've got one done. We're gonna repeat the process, get the cleats on the walls, and put the rest of the 5 on. All right, we got those 3 in. They look great. Now let's move on to the left side. Well, I'm really happy with how these shelves came out. You would never know that they were added after the original build.
What's up guys, this is Nate from Sweener Builders, and I'm here to show you my tool vest. The reason I like the vest over the tool belts, for a few reasons. You have 3 points of contact for your hanging off your body, so it's not just a belt hanging off of your waist. It hangs off your shoulders, your chest, your back, and your waist. All your pockets are nice and compact. You know, I have just what I need, 4 different pockets for 4 different fasteners, a little speed square, you know, various little things that you keep in the pouches. That way you don't have a big cluster of random screws and nails all in the same bag. So you also don't have big, large bags hanging off of your sides, you know, brushing against cabinets and whatnot. Everything stays very tight. I have room for drill bits, tips of all kinds, you know, nail set. Typically keep 2 sets of scribes on me. Pencils and pens up here. The other thing I like about Diamondback is you have the option to go modular with all your things. So these pockets all clip into each other and can be clipped anywhere on the vest or anywhere that you have loops on these accessories. And this is the same thing. I just use this for my bevel gauge and my little glazing bar. Sometimes I'll throw strips of finish nails in there if needed to keep them from breaking. And then just room for a little more tips here and there. And then I also like to keep a gun loop on my back for hanging nail guns, screw guns, and so on and so forth. You know, these are just your adjustment points for your vest in the back to tighten up the waist. You know, I like to run mine a little looser, just my personal preference. And that's about it.
Back at our helical pier project, the team's installing all the exterior details that our architects specified to help with the home scale. The windows are installed, the wood roof is nearly complete, and we're about to add a standing seam metal roof to the tower on the 2nd floor. Let's go visit Jay in his shop to learn more.
I didn't find metal. Metal found me. Yeah, I'm trying to think how to explain it. When metal was first being introduced to me, I was looking around saying, you know what, there's nobody else doing this. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. So why not make a career out of it? I got into sheet metal, I'd say 25 years ago. My father used to own a roofing business, and we slowly got introduced to the metal work because we couldn't find anybody to do it for us. So we started doing our own. I was kind of born and bred into roofing. I loved it, had a passion for it, so I really didn't look around at any other trades. And being I started roofing so young, I was starting to get the aches and pains at 25, 30, and that's when metal started coming along, and I said, you know, this might be a good time to jump. There's nobody else in town doing it, so that might be the time to make the leap towards something different. When I gave up asphalt shingling, I left asphalt and I went to iron ore, or copper ore. And now we're out in the original shop. This is where it all started. This is the shop my father originally started the roofing business from. And what you're looking at, this is how my master coils come in. The material is about 20 inches wide. This should be about, I think, 600 feet. It works out to about 1,000 square feet of material. This here is 032 aluminum. It's the color they chose, the charcoal finish. There are about 30 different colors to choose from. My passion for the material I work with, I'm just fascinated how it starts in the ground. It's chemically produced to where they pull the copper ore out of it. They roll it out into sheet goods. It has a longevity of 75 to 100 years, so what you make is going to be seen by many generations to come. So what we're going to do, it's sitting on a decoiler, so it'll spin. We're going to grab this end, bring it over to the machine, feed it through. This is the panel machine. Slide it in till it's set. Turn it on, feed the material through. And now it's going to roll a female and male leg. This is the male leg that's coming out. This is the female leg. Now when it gets to the final length, I have to manually cut it. And then it sends the full panel out. That's the finished panel ready for installation. Now when I started, computers really didn't exist. So my hardest part was trying to figure out how to take a three-dimensional shape, lay it out flat, and make the transfer. All right, I'm just going to grab a piece of charcoal gray. That's what we're using on this particular project. I'll bring it over here to the 10-foot shear. Once metal found me and I found what I could do with it, I started challenging myself more to get better, succeed. Now we're just going to take our smaller pieces, bring them over to the break. And the more I challenged myself, the more other people started challenging me. 1-inch aluminum standing seam. I'm going to make a hip cap. It's an 8-inch pitch. So if I couldn't figure it out, I'd work as hard as I could to master it. That just bent the pitch of the roof. And that's the finished hip. A lot of people are putting on aluminum metal roofs now just to accent certain points of the house. It's gaining a lot of popularity. It's a little less inexpensive than copper, so a lot of people are leaning that way. A standing seam aluminum roof will probably last about twice as long as an asphalt roof. When I was younger, I was never scared of heights, which was always good. The older I get, the farther away the ground gets. I'm not scared of heights, I just respect them more than I did when I was younger. I like this material for the longevity. A lot of people don't realize this. It's antimicrobial. No bacteria can adhere to it. You're working with a safe product every day. And the more I look around, trades are getting a little concerning. There are not a lot of young people filling in where the old people are retiring. I'm 46, there's a lot of people on the job my age, and we're known as the kids. We need more kids coming up behind us, because more people are retiring, but nobody's filling their spot. That's going to be a big concern. I would tell any kid out there, if you're thinking about a trade, jump on it, pursue it. They say if you got a trade, you got it made.
I love that line. He sure does have that right. So thanks for watching another episode of Sawdust. Every Wednesday, we're going to introduce you to new craftsmen, show you how we're built here on the coast. If you like what you see, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Sawdust.